This time we'll call the meeting to order.
Let's pray. Father God in heaven, we just thank you for today, and I just thank you for the weather. And I just pray it's like this all winter long, God. And we just pray and ask you to govern this body of people. I pray for our community and our citizens, God, and I pray for our civic leaders here, our commissioners, the mayor, the city manager, and the city attorney. And I just pray that you guide them, that we can make this city better, that we can grow and be what we want to be and allow you to be who you need to be, God. We pray that in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there any changes to the agenda?
No. Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Hutchinson, second by Commissioner Ash to approve the agenda. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving on to public comments. This is a time where citizens are encouraged to speak publicly. We request that you state your name and address, speak respectfully, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Moving on to the action agenda, minutes of the November 17th, 2021 meeting.
To approve the minutes of November 17th. Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Belden, second by Commissioner Wentz to approve the minutes of November 17th, 2021. Are there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving on to appropriation ordinance number 22. Look like some fairly significant checks being written, but kind of end of year and wrapping up the contract.
I move to approve appropriation order number 22. Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Hutchinson, second by Commissioner Wentz to approve appropriation ordinance number 22. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving on to bid approval for CDBG demolition grant.
I'll let Keegan speak from North Central Regional Planning Commission since she's administering this program, but go ahead.
Thank you. It's so wonderful to finally be in front of you for the first time. So that's definitely a blessing that we've been graced with. So fabulous and nice to see all of your wonderful faces. At the bid opening, we received a total of 7 bids. And the best bid that came in that had the lowest dollar figure was with Western Sales. And the second best bid that came in was from Smith Construction. And did anyone have any questions of those bids or any of the process that we went through to get to this point?
Where is Western Sales out of?
They, yeah.
And you've worked with them before
This is correct.
and been satisfied?
Correct. I even pulled in the last, Carol Torkelson was the last housing director, and she was the one that would have worked with them. And I even corresponded with her as well. And she said that she was pleased with his work and we would be satisfied.
We double checked with them to make sure that they didn't miss anything, as like the asbestos removal requirements.
Yeah, I saw that that's
We have a
included.
memo back from them that they considered everything in there. Sounds like they're ready to go, so 45 days is the one that surprised me. I'll believe that when I see it, but
To ensure that we were even okay at the state level, we presented the two lowest bids before them to obtain their approval, just of that they were an okay contract. There was nothing that they saw from their angle, and that was all okay as well.
so the recommendation would be to accept that little bit.
Is there a reason the local Snavely didn't bid on their?
He didn't bid any of them with the asbestos in it.
Okay,
That's why, and I talked to him about that. I think he has fill of asbestos with the one schoolhouse he had to do, maybe, I don't know.
okay.
But he was nervous about it, but it was all approved, you know, the same asbestos removal companies, two of them did. You know, all the contractors called them and they called me and then they just submitted one bid for this house and this house and this house. So all the contractors got the same bid, I think, pretty much. On that, on the removal part, I'm guessing.
It's interesting to me that it was so much lower than the others.
Well, it is,
I mean,
and I believe it was Miltonville. He did a few in Miltonville under CDBG grant, wasn't it that you were saying? Oh, I thought.
It was another contractor.
Oh, I thought you said you did Miltonville one, okay. So I don't know, but, apparently the North Central Regional Planning Commission did their due diligence and vetted these guys correctly, so they're extremely hungry and.
Most of the
want something to do
work
this
that
winter.
he mentions here is in the western part of the state, so around where he's from, or where the business is located. Russell, Osborne, Hill City, Dorrance, that would all be local. Well, I move to authorize the mayor to sign the contract with Western Sales Company, entering into a contract for demolition and to name Smith Construction Services as the contingent contract should Western Sales Company decline the project. Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Hatch and seconded by Commissioner Wentz to authorize the mayor to sign the contract with Western Sales Co. entering into a contract for demolition and to name Smith Construction Services as a contingent contract should Western Sales Co. decline the project. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Excited for this grant.
Thank you.
Appreciate the opportunity. Appreciate you being here too. Moving on to the lease agreement for electric vehicle charging station.
Mayor and Commissioners, we visited briefly about the KDOT grant opportunity last meeting, and that grant deadline is coming upon us on December 15th. So we've been working with Francis Energy. We've been working with Andy Matson. Unfortunately, he couldn't join us tonight. So his colleague, Jason Lindsay, is on Zoom this evening in case you have some questions about the company or how they operate. So tonight before you is a lease agreement for the parking spaces that we discussed over on Broadway. Now, the lease agreement says up to 6 stalls, but with respect to the grant, we're looking at 3 stalls, 2 charging stations, as we talked about. That's what the grant would cover. If things go well over the next 15 to 20 years, they may want to add some more charging stations along that area. I did have an opportunity to, or I guess I should say, Justin has reviewed the contract and believes that it's okay as it is presented here. I did visit with the owners of Mavericks and explained to them kind of what we were looking at. They agree with us that it could be very much of a benefit for their business in other areas downtown. So they are supportive of it. I visited with the museum curator, Forrest Gerard, this afternoon. She has yet to visit with her historical society board, but they have been given the information, their version of the lease agreement for a portion of their yard for the transforming equipment. And she understands the scope of the project. For Francis Energy to submit the grant application before the deadline on December 15th, what they need from us and the museum is either sign lease agreements from both to show long-term commitment to the project, or at minimum a letter of intent. Now, since the museum historical board hasn't looked at that yet, I imagine that they would probably be looking more at the letter of intent before that point in time. But we feel comfortable with signing the lease agreement for those stalls at this point in time. We believe that we can meet all those criteria.
On insurance, does this require any type of change of insurance, or do we already have that type of coverage? The umbrella policy for 3 million. and that-
Oh, yeah, it's the same as, the same that's within our policy, it's covered under our policy.
Yes.
Got it.
You can kind of hide it.
Well, the lessee also is covering, so the $1 million policy.
And the right of first refusal, it says it just covers the premises, so that is, it states that it's just those 6 stalls. So I guess I don't know under what circumstance would there be others that would try to move in? There wouldn't be room for them, right?
Not,
And this is,
no, not in that space. Once you get to 6 stalls, you're really pushing that corner.
okay.
If the museum does not approve, what is our option if we sign?
The alternative then is that Francis Energy will need to work to find a different location for their transformer equipment, but the charging station and the pad that they sit on should be still within the right of way. There's a grassy area right on the back side of the curb. And as you can see in the pictures that are included in here, those stations would fit kind of right on the back side of that curb, allowing a little bit for a car overhang. But that should still be within the right of way boundaries. So just be the transformer that we have to find a different location for.
And that's something that Francis Energy is comfortable and confident that they'd be able to achieve. And the likelihood that, or not likelihood, but in the chance that the library decline this.
Jason, can I let you speak to that?
So your question, if you would repeat it about if KDOT were to decline it, what did you mean?
In the off chance that the library says that we don't want to do this. Museum, I'm sorry, not library, museum. About being able to find an alternate suitable location for the transformer, that shouldn't be, and I mean, it'll be an issue, but it won't be a deal breaker.
No, sir, we would be happy to find a different location. The main thing we're looking for is proximity to, one is a 3-phase line, which is right there at the museum, right there at that location is a great spot because it does have 3-phase power. And then looking at something where someone might want to spend 30 minutes while they charge their car, and a museum or there in that area is a good spot. But if that does get declined, then we're happy to look at other spots.
I don't anticipate that it will, just make sure that we're heading in the right direction.
Yes, sir.
It's great if it's gonna clog up that area. It's my only concern, I guess. Maybe I'm the only one that has that concern.
In what way?
Like if there's downtown Broadway with our and stuff, all those parking lot, like all around it is so full already. And I know people can park there already without the charging. I mean, with the charging stations there, they're not reserved for the charging stations. Guess it's not gonna make less parking.
I think it would almost be considered kind of like a repurposing of the parking, so we know that we have the potential for increased traffic with electrical vehicles. So again, while we don't have an ordinance that we can enforce that as an electrical vehicle charging spot, we would rely on people's voluntary respecting that those are for charging spots, so. You don't sound convinced, Marcia.
Well, no, because.
There may be some antagonistic parking opportunities. I could see that being an issue. Mhm.
I just wonder if there isn't a better location that maybe in the future we could put 6.
That would be one thing I think that'd be for a conversation. I think before we added any more, I would want to evaluate the data and usage data and look at other locations too, to kind of spread the love around the city for places to park. I know this agreement says up to 6. If you wanted to amend that, I would need to take that back to Francis Energy and see if they would be amenable to that.
Because would we move them, like once they were placed, all the equipment placed, like it's presented now? If we wanted to add more, would we pick that equipment up and move it, or just make it second
I would envision
location?
it would stay there, and then if we wanted to add locations at other locations, it would be different stalls that would be at other locations. It's like, for example, we talked at one time about putting some at the new parking lot over by the Brown Grand. I would anticipate that we would would set new equipment there, and so then there would be some at both ends of downtown, as one example. Or if we end up with some at the college, then it would be new equipment there.
Other questions or concerns?
I think it's a pretty decent location, all things considered, with the proximity to the Broadway Plaza. Those restrooms are open 24/7 or no?
They are, unless we end up with some abuse.
Right.
So they're intended to be open 24/7, but if we have abuse, then we do lock them up.
I move to approve the lease agreement with Francis Energy for the installation of the charging stations on the east side of Broadway between 6th and 7th Streets.
Second,
It's been moved by Commissioner Hutchinson, seconded by Commissioner Hash to approve the lease agreement with Francis Energy for the installation of EV charging stations on the east side of Broadway between 6th and 7th Streets. Is there further discussion? Hearing none. Okay.
Yeah, I just had a question. Should I ask it before? If they want to put in more, and Francis Energy wants, do we get another lease agreement for a different area?
If it's for a different location, we either have to get a different agreement or an addendum.
But this agreement as is would allow for up to.
Up to 6 in that location.
Mhm.
And the rent payment doesn't change. I mean, $10 a year.
$10 a year. And again, our goal with this isn't for the city to make money directly, but to generate business for our other entities in the area.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Appreciate you being here this evening.
Yep, thanks for having me, and feel free to reach out if you'll have any other questions.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Moving on to Cloud Core 2022 Professional Services Agreement.
Good evening. You have in front of you the 2022 services agreement between Cloud Corp and the city of Concordia. One of the things that I do like to do is kind of give you an update before you sign that into an agreement, kind of going through the bullet points that are located out in the service agreement and just kind of some other things that we are working on as far as community development and economic development. So right now, projects year to date, getting the cloud grant, I'll start with, because we had some dollars left over from the 2020 project year that moved into 2021. So although we received $150,000, right now we're administering $200,000 in getting the cloud grant. So we've expended the money from 2020, but the projects are still going on. And then we've expended all the money from 2021. And that includes with 7 businesses being awarded. Those are new business and business expansion. The small business development courses that are offered through Cloud Corp in conjunction with Republic County. We do those 4 times a year. We have had those classes for 2021, and approximately 12 people in Cloud County have participated in those courses. So that doesn't count what she's receiving also from Republic County that are coming in at the same time. So the classes have been a little bit larger this year than expected. And the other thing that we're able to market to Cloud County businesses or those looking to go into business is Keegan was here with North Central Regional Planning. They have received some grant funding through the state to be able to offer more small business development courses in terms of some more specified things and nonprofit stuff. So they're doing some nonprofit organization classes, financial summaries, QuickBooks, Quicken, different things on what types of companies, like if you're looking to go into business, do you want to do a sole proprietorship? Do you want to do an LLC? Do you want to do a C Corp? What all of that means. And so we're able to market those classes on top of the small business classes we're doing, and they're all still free.
for anybody in the county that wants to take them. So I encourage you to go out and look at North Central Regional site with those free courses, because there's a lot of them and they're just continually ongoing. We are working with the Federal Home Loan Bank in the housing grant. We have fulfilled all the applications that we are able to receive at this time. 12 of the applicants have been income verified. We have 4 projects complete and 5 projects in process. That doesn't seem like a lot. However, trying to get those total of 9 projects just kind of in the works we've seen some hurdles. One of those hurdles is our supply chain distribution. One project, for example, was quoted, it was a Windows project, was quoted in July. And I just received the invoice this morning. They received the Windows last Thursday, finally, when they ordered them in July, and were able to get them put in. So we're looking at just a lot of backlog. Another one that was quoted in July, I visited with the contractor today. It was an exterior door project. And both of the doors came in, none of the hardware came in. Finally, the hardware came in, and when they unpackaged the doors, one of them was damaged to the point that it wasn't usable. So they had to send it back, and they can't tell them when that door is going to be available. So we're running into a lot of problems with supply chain and materials. The other problem that we're running into is the fact that when we wrote the grant, we had quotes on the different projects we were doing, knowing how much we could spend per project, not anticipating the massive amount of increase in prices. So in the past week, I've had a couple of people have to turn their projects down because the cost of materials have gone up so much that it's driven the cost of the projects up, and they can't come up with the overage for the projects. So we're not the only ones in this boat. We've been in contact a lot with Federal Home Loan Bank, and they're visiting with all the other projects that are going on right now too. We're all fighting the same issues and trying to continue to get our projects going. With this project, the reimbursement portion of things, we don't receive the money up front and then award it out. We actually award the money out, pay the invoices, and then have to go through a reimbursement process. So we've partnered with Miltonville Educational Charitable Foundation. They have taken out the line of credit to be the bypass through when these invoices are paid. So that line of credit is only so many dollars. So I'm unable to move on any more projects until we get reimbursed for the projects that are out there. So it's just, the process is long and arduous on it. It's going to be a great thing. Those that have had their projects done, I mean, are tickled pink with what they've received and are very excited about it. So I know it's a really good program. It's just a very time-consuming project. So we're continuing to move on those. Housing study was one thing that Amy and I had talked about last year, and now we're going to be moving on here soon. Really excited about that one. Have been to some conferences and roundtable discussions. And at the end of the conference or at the end of the roundtables, all of the economic development directors kind of get to stand up and talk about the different projects maybe that are going on in their area or some things that they're stumbling with. And when I went to Hayes a couple of weeks ago, every single community, workforce, housing, daycare, every time somebody stood up, it got to the point where they were going, oh, ditto Hodgman County, ditto Norton. So those are the things that all of us Western Kansas counties are really working hard and trying to do. So housing is a really big step, I think, for Concordia and Cloud County. I'm excited to go through this process with Concordia and see how it all pans out, in hopes that we could potentially get the rest of the communities in the county on board to do a housing study that would be, everything outside of Concordia, to try to determine what is needed and work towards housing for those communities too, because there's some real need, in Clyde, in Jamestown, in Miltonville, Glasgow. So We'll continue to move on with the housing, just doing some researching on the rural housing incentive districts and the middle income housing grants so that we can utilize all the dollars that are out there. Had some really good discussion and information from communities that have already used both of these that have said, you know what, when you get to that point, holler, we'll walk you through the whole process. So that's really comforting there. We were able to finally launch the Cloud Corp website. It is doing great, it's getting a lot of traffic. We have a free job posting bulletin on there where employers can go out and post jobs and set the time for when they want that job to come down. So we're not constantly having to go out and making sure that everything's up to date. But it's a great place for people looking for jobs to go out and see what's out there. Our site is mirrored off of Northwest Kansas Economic Innovations job site. So you can put, employers can navigate it the same way in posting jobs to both, or potential employees can go out and look, and it's easy for them to be able to navigate because they look alike and they can see how they need to go through everything. We have a link to all the available properties on every single page of our new website. That will take them out to location 1, where we're keeping all the information on our properties up to date. We have pages for healthcare, education, and quality of life. And we are now incorporating MailChimp in with our website so that we are able to send out information to all county businesses that are pertinent to their areas. So right now, what we've been doing is when, for example, during COVID, when PPP stuff was coming out and we needed to send out changes in rules, regulations, application deadlines, anything like that, basically I had a spreadsheet that we had done and I was going in and inputting all of the email addresses from that spreadsheet every time I wanted to send out some emails. So now we'll be able to send it out. Concordia, Clyde, Glasgow, Miltonville, everybody kind of has their own setup. And I think it will be a lot better in just communicating with the businesses and getting information out there that we need to present to them. So we did take up daycare as one of the community development projects that we were going to work on. So we have Project Little Rascals going on right now. That is a collaboration with a lot of different entities in the county, which is great. USD 333, 224, Child Care Aware, Dane Hansen, Cloud County Health Center, River Valley Extension District. We've all been together. We've all been working on the daycare. The daycare desert is what I'm going to call it here in our county. We have a lot of children on waiting lists trying to get into daycare. A lot of parents driving all over, trying, back and forth to different daycares outside where they're working, and then having to go back and pick kids up. So we're trying to ease the burden of that a little bit. There are some different funding models and mechanisms out there through Dane Hansen, which they have been amazing support, but in order to get dollars for for-profit daycares in our communities and in our counties, it's going to take either nonprofits or our cities or counties to step up to apply for grant funding through Dane Hansen and then have their own grant process to give out grants to new for-profit daycares. There are some smaller communities that have started some nonprofit daycares where a lot of private community investors have put money towards those daycares, and they've started the nonprofit, and that's working for them now. I think that would be difficult to get going here in this area. So I think working with the counties, working with the county and the cities and seeing if we can't get some grant ideas going and applying through Dane Hansen and some other initiatives to help some for-profit new daycares going. So that's going to be coming after the first of the year. We've had some movement on some properties. Obviously, North Development has Central Plains Agronomy going in. The old Taco John's has sold. Properties in South Development have sold. So properties that have kind of been on the market a little bit, we're seeing some movement on them, which is good. I'm attributing Old Taco John's in the South Development property to the hospital. I know the South Development property is because the hospital, because they visited with that developer when he was first looking at properties, and he was driving through and he said, you have a beautiful new hospital healthcare system going up, but I want to be there. I said, okay. So I think we're going to see a little bit more of our properties move, or some businesses coming in because of that. Been looking at ancillary businesses, kind of what moves off of new healthcare facilities, what's grown up and popped up around them, and looking in rural communities and doing some research there. We've had 5 completed or in-process expansions through businesses in the county, and 7 either completed or in process as new businesses in the county just for 2021. So I think that shows some promising growth here. We are also working with our first youth entrepreneurship challenge, which I think is going to be really exciting. It's kind of a science fair meets Shark Tank. This is something that is a sanctioned event through Network Kansas. And right now we have Dave Gabar up at the high school who's championing this project for us. We've started it just at USD 333, not knowing how it all works or how it gets together. Wanted to make sure we did it right. The Concordia Rotary Club has come on with this project and is kind of heading it up, which is really awesome. And then we have the school district and Cloud Corp who are helping out with it. So we have 6 kids right now that are in process and competing. There are 3 teams, so they can develop a partnership when they put this together. So basically what they're doing is they're getting together, they're deciding what business they want to build, a product, a service, whatever that may be. They may have a partner, or they may be doing a sole proprietorship, but they have to put together an executive summary. They have to participate in a trade show, do an elevator pitch, and a formal presentation. Those are the 4 portions of the actual challenge. So right now, Dave is incorporating this curriculum that was developed by K-State through their entrepreneurship curriculum. And they're going through all the steps and processes and how to build. And Dave reached out to me today. He said, so we're talking about things like utilities, you know, in a building. How much should they be putting aside, or know how much it is going to cost for the utilities to put in their cash flows? So he had said, what do you think? Do you think we could get some utility prices from some of the larger businesses in town? Because he said, you know, the smaller ones, they understand that, but if we could get some larger business ones. And I said, absolutely. So got that information for him, and I emailed him to him today. He said, holy cow, I think this will knock some of their socks off. So we were able to have 2 of the kids come and present to Rotary. They did an amazing job with it, not knowing what to expect. We didn't know what to expect. So it was really nice. Now we're looking at having some guest speakers from our Rotary Club go in and visit with the students. Maybe it's about social media marketing, could be about some cash flow stuff, whatever it is, they would like us to come in and set up some guest speakers on. So looking forward to that. That event will be March 1st. It is open to the public. It'll be in the school district's media room there at the high school. We'll be giving cash prizes for the first 3 places there. So exciting. You already heard about the electric vehicle charging stations and just staying engaged. It's still been kind of difficult at the state level to go and sit down and visit and stay engaged because they're all still virtual. Everything we're doing through anything with the Department of Commerce or KEDA has all been virtual. The CRETA conferences, the economic development roundtables, we've been able to do those in person, but just kind of trying to take advantage of all of the different webinars that the state's putting out, supply chain disruption. We did one on the Biodefense Center because they talked about some ancillary businesses that could be in surrounding communities. So they kind of invited some communities they thought were surrounding. We were included in that surrounding area. So we were able to sit in and listen and see what businesses might pop up or want to locate also in the surrounding towns. So just continuing to probably a lot focused community development in terms of the housing and the daycare, but still working with businesses and getting information out there and trying to develop a plan when January comes around. Any questions? So I just ask for any discussion or pardon the services agreement.
Any questions for Ken? I think a lot of shifting and a lot of figuring out how to navigate different things.
I move to approve the Crowd Court 2022 professional services agreement.
Second,
So moved by Commissioner Hutchinson, second by Commissioner Hash to approve the Cloud Court 2022 professional services agreement. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Appreciate it. Ken.
Have a good evening.
Moving on to the Housing Authority appointments.
There are two positions expiring at the end of the year, Vicki Kahn and myself. And I did advertise in the Blade, and it's very rare to have more expressions of interest than positions. So I don't want to make a recommendation. I'm not the board president or the secretary. And the secretary did not want to make any, did not want to say either. So Vicki served since 2011. I have since 2016. Larry Uri had me go on there at that time when there was some issues. And I would say it's probably a good idea to have a city rep on there, whether it's me or whoever. But I think it's been helpful to have someone from the city serving on there.
Is there a reason that nobody, I mean, is there a reason Olive can't be on there? Because like you said, it's very rare that
It gets a little muddy when there's too many. Our bylaws say 5 or 6. It had always been 5 members, and 2 or 3 years ago, we got an extra expression, so we changed the bylaws to say or 6, and we have 6 right now. And that's a pretty full board, actually.
I agree about having the city member on there, just so, you know, I don't know if we're gonna inherit this property at some point in time. Have we already inherited it?
We got a few more years.
Okay, so we will, so I think it's important to keep that person there. I was in, I worked with Missy Leffler on some things. I think she's willing to give some time, and that's somebody I'd like to potentially see on.
I know Devin personally, and I don't think he would let it happen if he wasn't very interested, but as far as the time and stuff, I'm not, I mean, he has a young child, so I'm not 100% sure, but they both looked very promising. And I would agree that I think we do need to keep
How many men do you have on there?
1, Ryan Carnes.
We need one then.
You know you're surrounded.
I know it kind of goes over your heads. It's okay. I get it. So with the additional expression of interest, and knowing, I mean, I'm guessing that not all of our other boards are as filled because these are there others that would.
No, I'm too short on the planning commission and too short on the board of zoning appeals now, and I've got a reappointment coming up next. And 1st of January.
So I'm wondering with Devin's experience, I'd be really.
And for him to go, I mean, he's pretty shy, so for him, I don't know, that's just me personally.
I think, so I think with that, because I don't want to turn somebody down when there is that interest, but I think if there's a way for us to say, this is where we went, but we would really like maybe just to scratch out the X on housing authority and put the X on this board, we'd like to keep your application.
If I could, I love your idea, Chuck, and if we could encourage them, I would say to fill the planning commission, and my reason for saying that is embarking on the housing study, knowing that we have to do the comp plan after we get the housing study results. I'd love to see a full planning commission before we embark on that as well.
Is there like Vicky's on there, has been on there for quite a while, is there a set time limit that somebody can do?
No, I have, I don't know if you and I have talked about it at one point. We don't have, our bylaws don't call for any kind of time limit with it. Vicky or Kim Wiesner's been on there since 1996.
It can be nice to get, especially if you have some interest, it can be really nice to get some fresh ideas going, especially if we are getting close to the time where that property could turn over. And I think too, if that's our housing authority, I'm sure the intent was with that certain property. But again, if one of our focuses, as Kim described, needs to be some housing, some community development, there could be some opportunities to expand the scope of what the housing authority does. And again, having some fresh ideas and fresh perspectives may help that.
I guess with that in mind, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Missy Leffler and Stacy Smith to the Housing Authority for 3-year terms and encourage staff to chat with the other 2 candidates about the Planning Commission.
I'll second that.
So moved by Commissioner Hutchinson, second by Commissioner Wentz to appoint Melissa Leffler and Stacy Smith to the Housing Authority for 3-year terms. With other conversations to be encouraged. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. I also would hope that in the conversation, especially with Vicky, that it's not in any way, shape, or form any kind of statement of past work, but rather an encouragement to maybe move some things around to foster this growth. Moving on to CMB licenses.
CMB licenses expired at the end of the year. We had the same 11 apply as last year, and KBI found no issues. And we've seen 11 listed there, and we just ask that you approve those for next year.
I move to approve the 2022 CMB licenses.
Second.
It's moved by Commissioner Belden, second by Commissioner Wentz to approve the 2022 CMB licenses. Is there any further discussion? Excuse me, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving on to the manager's report.
Mayor and Commissioners, today we got to celebrate with our employees the annual appreciation luncheon, and we were able to enjoy a meal together, which we did not get to do last year. So we were very thankful for that. We gathered in the fire department bay and able to spread out a little bit. So that was kind of nice. Also, each year we provide our employees the updated handbook changes. At the same time, we give them the small gift of some chamber bucks that we hope that our local businesses appreciate, and encouraging our employees to shop local there too. Also, just wanted to announce, in case you haven't seen the advertisement yet, on December 15th, we also get to celebrate Ron. We're going to plan for a very short commission meeting that night at 5:30, and then at 6 o'clock, we invite the public to come in and celebrate with Ron for a reception until about 7 o'clock or so. And so that's kind of our plan for that evening. I hope all of you will be able to stick around for a little bit for that reception as well. The public is invited to join us at 6 o'clock on December 15th, right here in City Hall to celebrate Ron.
It's on our website.
Put it up in the plaza.
25,000 tons of asphalt waste.
Staff reports.
Hopefully this will be one of the final updates. We held the public meeting for the appraisers last commission, or prior to the last commission meeting. And so that appraisal was, their appraisal report was submitted to the court. And then behind that, you have to do is an order accepting it. The order was actually accepted today. They were a little delayed in that, but we actually had it dated from the 19th. So the 19th or 20th will be the appeal period will have run by then of December. So hopefully by the end of this month, we will have everything taken care of. During that time, we will deposit the funds in the district court and then we'll just kind of sit and wait. So we are almost done.
Any other reports?
You're not retiring?
Still retired. I'll just give you up to date on the alleys over there. They started pouring concrete in that far west alley and they're about 2/3 done with that. They've uncovered the storm drains on Washington Street. We found on the east side, we're gonna have to repair one of the walls in there before we put the top back on it. And on the west side, we've got to repair a wall on that one too. So that'll take a little bit of time, but they're hoping to get a little more concrete for the next 2 days on that west alley. Almost get it pretty much finished up, except for they'll have some approaches coming into the alley on Washington on both sides of the street. And Broadway Street will have to be concrete down probably that too. Should in a couple weeks, it's gonna be close. In 2 weeks. They're pouring a lot of concrete. Today they had a truck there at 7 o'clock and they shut them down for till 10:30 because they have another pour somewhere else and then they got to pour it again. So as long as we get concrete, we'll get something. Thanks.
2 weeks is the scariest time frame in any project.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Anyways, not seeing Money Pit. Do themselves a favor.
It's been that.
2 weeks.
Greatest. We'll see.
Or the worst movie ever.
That concrete.
Terrible documentary.
Concrete crew in there's doing a good job.
Good.
You're not gonna stay on and finish this project?
Right.
We're done in 2 weeks.
Well, you better make sure they're done in 2 weeks then. We'll let you go as soon as they're done.
I don't know if I can force them, but I think they want to be done.
However you handle that, Ron, is up to you. We'll let you take care of that. We're just not gonna let you go until it's done.
Put a stamp on that.
I think that's an approval.
Sounds like it.
Time to do some damage. Other staff reports? Commissioner comments? Commissioner?
No. No worries.
Well, I have something. On Thanksgiving Day, there was an accident at my home and my dad fell. And I have to say that I think the city and the county probably coordinated with each other. And in spite of the fact that there were apparently a lot of other calls, they came. There were 5 people that showed up. Nobody died. Nobody had to be hospitalized or anything like that. But you know, I had an 83-year-old man who was helping and 100-pound woman and then me. And we were able to get my husband moved and up off the ground. So I have to say that I'm grateful for the coordination between the city and county, because I know that the county filled in some rough areas. And I didn't consider mine an emergency, except that my dad was gonna probably kill himself trying to help. So anyway, all's well that ends well.
We were out of town Friday evening, but from the pictures that I've seen, the hometown holiday looked like it went well. And always love being a part of a community that feels like a good hometown. So appreciate all the businesses and all the coordination that goes into putting those events on. This time, would move to executive session or entertain a motion to move to executive session. I think 20, I'll probably start with 20 minutes. Would that be sufficient? If not, we can.
I move that the city commission recess into an executive session to discuss employment personnel issues pursuant to the non-elected personnel matter exception KSA 75-4319 B1 with Amy Lang in attendance, and to reconvene in the city commission chamber at 6:40 p.m.
Second. It's been moved by Commissioner Hash, second by Commissioner Hutchinson to move into city commission, move into recess. City commission recess into executive session to discuss employment personnel issues pursuant to non-elected personnel matter exception KSA 75-4319 B1 with Amy Lang in attendance, and reconvene in city commission chamber at 6:40. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Review. Based on a positive review, I'd like to make a motion for a 1% merit-based increase in pay for our city manager.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Hutchinson, second by Commissioner Hash. Following a positive annual review to increase, have a 1% merit-based increase in salary for city manager. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. This time I would entertain, thank you for your service. We appreciate having you here. At this point, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
I so move.
Second. Been moved by Commissioner Hash, second by Commissioner Wentz to adjourn the meeting. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Yes.